I think I messed up the broadcast as usual. So let me add Andy over here and welcome another Monday, another Demystifying Post-Production show. And as usual, I'm producing, so mistakes will happen. Started well. How are you doing, Andy? I'm looking very
Yeah, pretty good, man. I'm gonna make some mistakes too, no doubt.
which
but
is
yeah, good to hang out again, man. It's been way too long, so
it's been way
hopefully
too.
in person at some point soon. But this is good for now. So yeah,
What was the last time I saw you? Was it 2019 at NEB?
it
Were you?
probably was. It
Yeah.
probably was then. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
let's keep the chit chat to a minimum because I want to reintroduce Andy to anyone that doesn't know him. Andy Needham is an artist based out of the UK. And after I do a quick housekeeping round, we're going to get into more details, and Andy's going to talk to us about his work and all that nice stuff. So I'm going to add my screen and remove our beautiful faces. And
Hmm.
if you want to ask a question, go to this page. I'm going to do the copy pastes as well. So I'm going to go to the comments over here and paste a few links for you so you have them available. And this page has a form where you can ask questions about our various products, which Jonas and I will deal with in the Ask the Trainer sessions. And what else do we have here? We have upcoming events. You can see up here the upcoming events. Now, talking about events, if you want to see what events are coming up and all that great stuff that Maxon does for users, you can go to the events page and check out everything, dates, and sign up for all sorts of live shows and all that great stuff. Now, if you want to learn Cinema 4D, go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel where these shows are hosted after they are broadcast live. So currently we are broadcasting on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel and the Maxon YouTube channel. But if you want to catch these recorded, you will find them only on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel with timestamps supplied by Dr. Sassy, who goes through our videos and corrects our mistakes. Yeah, I think he needs to get some overtime when he deals with my videos. Nonetheless, talking about tutorials and videos, go to the Maxon ZBrush YouTube channel and check out all the absolutely amazing stuff that is available. And rumor has it that a version of ZBrush for the iPad is available for beta testing. So, yeah, I hear some excellent feedback from it. Now, if you want to get a free t shirt for this month, then you can go to this link to get it. You can use, I'm going to my great little banner here, this password, particle magic, and you can claim your swag, right? Take a snapshot of that. And what else do we have here? We have the Old University, which has tens of thousands of tutorials. And although the UI may be slightly outdated, the technical information is pretty much still relevant for all the classic features. But at the same time, we have the new Cineversity. And here, amongst other things, you can check out the series on particles, since we're going to talk about particles, made by yours truly. And yeah, it will give you enough information to get up and running. Now, talking about running, let me bring up, there we go. You can find Andy, and I need to go over here and copy. Oh, actually, let's go to, you can find Andy's YouTube channel here. I think Andy's pasting some links down there as well. His Instagram feed, which is amazing. His Twitter/X account, also known as Twixer. That's my word. Andy, spread the word. It's Twixer. And what else? Oh, And what else? Yep. And this over here, which I'm actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and copy this, copy the link and go to the general comments. I'm going to paste this link, which is Andy's NAB presentation, and it was on particles. So you'll see more of the amazing stuff he has done. So let me go to the banners, turn it off. One last request is that if you ask any questions in the chat, please preface them with a capitalized question so I can distinguish them from comments, and it will be easier for me to look through the list of questions. So yeah, I'm going to switch to Andy's screen right now over here, which he has a hexagon. And before that, what I'm going to do is remove Andy's screen so Andy can tell us a few things about himself so he can introduce himself. Andy, who are you and what do you do?
I mean, you did a pretty decent job of covering the very basics there, but like I'm a freelance motion designer based in London, and I've been doing that for about 20 years or so. I'm also a trainer of, well, an educator, I guess. I started with I guess the usual stuff like Vimeo and things like that, thanks to people like Nick Campbell inspiring, and then from there, my good friend Rob Garrett got me involved in lynda.com, which turned into LinkedIn Learning. And I've been doing that for like 10 years. So I have, an update to one of my courses in the pipeline. It's going to be finished, well, the recording side of it finished in mid-June, something like that. So we'll see some updates on there. And then I'm looking, as you said, with my YouTube channel to actually put out more like immediate kind of content as well. So certainly more of this particle based stuff, and just other things that kind of relate to cinema 4D motion design and the like. So yeah, I just like the idea of being able to put something out a bit quicker and not have that lengthy like QA process that has to be done with a full-on course. But for YouTube stuff and things like that, we can just share and kind of get more feedback from the community via comments and things like that, and that kind of just drives things forward. So I think I'm finding that quite exciting, and I'm in the process of getting the first sort of couple of videos ready for that. So please please subscribe, and that lets me know that I've got an audience to talk to. So yeah.
Share, like, subscribe, hit the notifications, and post in the comments because it feeds the YouTube algorithm. I just picked that up from someone else, but yeah. So very quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share Andy's screen, and I'm going to very quickly go through a few greetings from Brazil. Diana says hi, and Diana actually says, I just finished my C4D course, and oh my God, I'm such a big fan, and many others as well. Welcome to the Cinema 4D family. And what else? We have a quick question. Let's see. Blake Anderson asks, are you able to show how to recreate a particle system similar to what you see in the movie The Fountain? Golden Spiral look. I haven't seen the movie. Have you seen it, Andy?
I haven't. No.
If you can post. One thing I need to remind everyone is that both myself at Noseman GR, this is for Twixer, and at Jonas Pills 3D, we take questions in that form, or you can contact us directly on Twitter with any questions or any references, because a lot of our tutorials are created after user interaction. Your questions become quick tips, they become tutorials, they become subjects for our shows. And having said that, I surrender the floor to Andy to show us some of his fantastic stuff, and I'm going to take our very beautiful faces off the screen.
Whoop. All right. Well, thank you very much, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you have questions, then pop them in. But I'm going to I guess we'll just talk about something that I haven't seen maybe much kind of spline-based emission stuff. So, like a portal is probably a good thing to do. So there's a few things that we can talk about here, and multiple systems, how we are kind of controlling the rotation of the particles. We've got different radii, colorizing, things like that. So let's just kick it off. I think it's probably, rather than just, we can come back to this file if we need to, but I'll probably just build it from scratch with the help of this end side. So let's paste it in. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, does it want to give me that? It's giving me an area light. I think I had that copied before, so I'll just copy and paste. How lazy is that? I could have just created one, but efficient. No, anyway. The good thing about
to do it the hard way, just to make it seem more fancy.
So. Well, I'm also demonstrating that you can copy and paste between Cinema 4D scenes, which I think is a huge feature, actually, and everyone should know about that. Let's see. The good thing about an inside is we can obviously, if we decide later on we want it to be a circle, we can just kick it up, turn on the rounding, and do that. So for now, let's just turn that off, and let's emit from this. We have, I've got my own custom particle layout, which you can't really see because I've got all these ones, but I don't necessarily need that. So you can see it here, this word particles, and I might just right click here and change my icon size to a medium size, just so that I'm not going off the screen at the bottom there. But if you want to find particles, come over to simulate, and if you've seen Thanasis's training, then you'll know all of this anyway. But it's in the simulate menu. All the new particles are here. We're going to be primarily focusing on the spline emitter and some conditions and things like that. But this is where they all are, and the forces that have been in C4D for years all work with the new system. So let's kick it off. We'll grab our spline. If we create a spline emitter, it should be connected as the source. And then there's a few ways of working with this. So I think what I might do is just kind of get this back to, if you were to create a new end side, right, it would come in like this with intermediate points set to adaptive and things like that. And if you press play, you're going to get this kind of look and feel. Now, if you want to start to direct these particles, the first thing we're going to do is come over to the properties. And instead of the direction being radial, let's just set that to the axis. And if you twirl this down, you'll see what axis they're going to be traveling along. So we're going in the positive Z direction, which is the blue handle here. And so let's just say that they're going to travel along this way. And what I want to do now is, instead of it being like along the spline in a kind of random way, we could say, let's just go off the points. Now, this is going to give us a completely different result because we're set to this like adaptive mode. And also, based on like the segments and things like that of the spline, what I'd like to do to give myself a bit more control is make this uniform. Now you'll see that we're going to get like a sort of 8 points between sort of here. So this gives us a bit more control. So in terms of like increasing your particle count, what we can do now is increase the number of uniform points. So if we just like bump this up, we'll end up with some more particles. So you can keep pumping this up as you need. Then we should end up with like a little stream of particles going along here. Now, I'm going to just jump back to my first thing, because I want to grab some geometry, and you know what? Yeah, I'll keep it. I'll keep it in the back pocket over here. But what I was going to do is what I'm going to do is just take an instance of this. Because I'm going to use this as like the source for other things, but I just want to kind of keep it there as an instance. So I'm going to come over to here, and then with it selected, I'm going to make an instance of this end side. I'll drop that into an extrude. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because I want this to be some actual geometry kind of that I can put a collider on and the particles can react to. So maybe if we just make this a bit longer, and then as you can see, like the next thing I've got here is I've got a time effector, but I'm going to use that in a different way. So I'm going to put all this under a null just so we can kind of work it in a bit of a more organized way. So what I want to do, and I'll show you, I guess, the problem first. Let's say we've got these particles and we want them to just rotate along this line. And there's many ways of doing this, but for example, you might want to reach for like a rotation force, and let's kick it up a bit so we can just see what's going on. Now this looks cool, but if I give ourselves some more frames, let's just go, not that many, come on, that'll do. Now you can see what's happening, right? It's really kind of starting to spin out and give us this almost like a vortexy type of look, which is fine, but I want to change that to be more like kind of in the straight line or in line with the geo. So this is one way of doing that. This is just a suggestion. You can jam on it and see what you think. So I'm going to come over to here, and I want the geometry to rotate, and I can't be bothered to do the keyframes. I'm very lazy. But what I'm going to do is just set this time effector from MoGraph, which is in this menu here. And this is going to be set to object mode. So this is going to deform the object based on the parameters that we have here. Now, I probably got this wrong. I think maybe here. Let's just see if it's going to rotate for me. And I want to be able to see this. So yeah, now this object is rotating. And this is all we've done is we've just changed the rotation mode from heading to banking. And now it's rotating on this axis that we'd like. So if you wanted to make it rotate the other way, just give it a negative value. Okay, so there's scope for adjusting it as you like. And the next thing I'm going to do is maybe, I think I'll leave the tapering off for now. We'll see if we need it later on. But what I'm going to do is, so that the system kind of sees all of this, we're going to connect it. So I'm going to drop the null under connect, turn off the welding, and then I'm going to take my tags and bring it into the simulation system by just adding a collider. So now this can be seen, this object can be seen by particles. So we're just, rotating object. Okay, so let's just, yeah, we don't need this. Let's just get rid of it. So let's just see, how do we get these particles to see this object? Well, what we can do is use one of the more sort of these ones here. And if we come over to the menu and modifiers, so these kind of external ones, you can think of them as like relying on an external tag or something like that. So we are going to use the surface attract, and I'm going to just drop that under here. And what do we want to do is just apply the dynamic object's velocity to the particles. That's what this is going to do. And as soon as we enable that, we're going to get like a really nice kind of, let's just go back so we don't get those particles flying off too much. Now, getting a few of them flying off, maybe that's because the radius is too low. So you can play around with that. And just now we're getting like just a few more flying off. But you can see that as it travels along, even as we're getting towards the end of the timeline, it's all very controlled. And, you can kind of clean these other bits up, or take this rotating object and just move it down a little bit. You can see, like they won't start rotating until they join up with that. So you've got a bit of art direction that you can happen there as well. So I think this is quite fun, quite an interesting sort of setup. And then pump up those particles and just add some color. So why don't we do that? So we've got this is like the basis of my rotating setup. I think I increased the speed and probably adjusted the radius a bunch. Yeah, a little bit. It's always nice to add a bit of variation too. And so you can see all of this. I really increased the radius in my example, just because I think when I had the tapering on as well, that was making the the gap between particles and geometry quite large. So I needed to increase the radius, the search radius of this surface attract, so that they would hug the surface a bit more. But in this case, we're kind of okay, and we could sort of take some energy out and things like that and adjust the strength. And you can even like put them, into a new group and do something else with them. But, this is fine for now. So coming back to here, yeah, this was another, another thing you can do. Let's colorize. Let's give them a bit more speed so they get to closer towards the end. And we're also going to, not that we probably get to rendering, but I just like to see a little bit of variation there, and then we'll colorize them as well. So to colorize them, I'm going to come into, and if you come into this category here, we're looking at manipulating the data, the particle data, always really, but specifically, we're going to do that, and we're going to do that with a color mapper. So we're going to drop that in, and I'm going to take the distance traversed. Oh, yep, and this is about 1,000 units. Let's just drop in 1,000, and we'll. I'm going to use a different gradient. So to do that, I'm going to come into the presets. I'm going to load a preset, and I think this one looks pretty nice. I think it might be even a newer one, so I'm going to use that. Let's give it a go. So this is going to say, right, when you are born, you're going to be this darker blue, and when we've reached the 1,000 units, you're going to be this kind of green color. But maybe we want to reverse that. So we'll right click in here and invert the gradient. So now they're going to start off as this sort of light greeny color. Let's hide the rotating object just so we don't get distracted by it. And we'll press play. So now, sure enough, they're going to flow along and they're going to sort of travel down here. It might be fun maybe to give them a little bit of variation on the speed. And maybe take out this damping just so that they, really do travel along, because we don't want to, we want to see them get to the end there. So the damping, the energy reduction has been taken out. So this is interesting. Maybe a first sort of part of a portal, and we can kind of see what's going on there a little bit better. Another thing as well is we're getting like this amount per second. If we wanted to really increase it, we can go per frame, and then you're really chucking in those particles there. Of course, as you want, as it can handle it, adjust it. But this could be something when you have like really tiny particles. You get like a really kind of spectacular looking effect. So and if these are kind of flying off too much or whatever, you could certainly like kill the particles that are outside of the bounds of this. We could do that. Maybe we could do that with a field condition. So take these particles. They have this particle group will now have a field condition based on, say, a let's see. I mean, you could use the geometry, or you could just use like a cylinder maybe, and any kind of field will do, I guess. We can make this a bit bigger, and when this is true, when this condition is true, you can see now it is true. When this condition is true, then just say, well, kill these particles, right? So I think this will actually do some damage. There we go. So
I think you need to invert your cylinder.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to kill. Yeah, I would probably. I was thinking it would get rid of them all because I didn't invert it, right?
Yeah, but it's outside the percentile. Yeah,
it's outside the bounds.
Yes.
Yeah. So I need to then increase.
I'm very good at pointing out other people's mistakes. That's
well, that's how we all learn.
That's a special talent, Andy.
Yeah. So if we go down, there we go. Right. So then you can really dial it in. just by that. And then, why not add some randomness to that, So that's how you can potentially control escaping particles coming out of here.
If anyone doesn't want to kill the particles because they have moral issues, you can always use an attractive force or something like that to any particles that veer off to be attracted towards the center and stuff like that. So
we didn't have to kill them. You're right. I mean, it
yeah,
is a bit brutal. We could have just
I don't
said
care.
like, why not scale them down to nothing and just keep them there, keep them processing. But at least this way, if you come into your if you select your particle group and go into point mode, you can see that we're generating quite a lot of points. And like anything, these points are particles, right? So anything that we can use to kind of save processor time, and especially if you want to add multiple groups and things like that, then you may want to consider like reducing the overhead by killing them. And of course, you can you can bring some back in by reducing the chance that they get killed and things like that. But another fun thing might be just to switch them to another group or something like that, if they meet this condition. So there's so many other options that you could take. But for now, we'll go with that. I'm just jumping back to another scene here. And I think I want to talk about another type of like, let's just see it. Let's just see what's going on. So we've got, I'm going to turn off this group and these ones here. And let's just talk about this little section here. So what's going on with that? Okay, so with this one, it's just based on, well, we're getting a bit of, we're kind of using the spline. Let's just bring a new spline emitter into our scene, our main scene here. And I'm going to just stay a little bit more organized than I normally am because people are watching. And I'm going to call this thickness. And let's just go, we're going to be like going along, actually, no, we don't have to. We can go on based on the points of the spline. Let me just turn off the other one because that's a bit distracting, and especially when you drop a cube in as you don't need to do that. Let's just press play. So these again are like flying off in all kinds of directions. I want to set that again. We're going back to what we did in the first instance of just get them traveling along in this way. We can give them some variation as well. And I'd like to give them like a lifetime as well. So I don't want these particles to last throughout the whole scene. Maybe they could be like a variation of, this sort of bracket here. And that might even be too much. Yeah, it is. Let's just go like that. So what I'm looking for is, and I'll go 15, something like that. Just making it up, really. But yeah, we want to have like a kind of like an edge kind of, first bit of emission thing happening here. So, and we could get those being a bit thicker maybe. But what I want to do is by doing it like this, we'll actually demonstrate this thickness mode a bit better. So you can imagine like this spline, if we increase the thickness amount, you can see how they've sort of jumped from either side here. So we're like creating a radius around this spline. And then now like the particles can kind of emit within those bounds. You can vary it up. Why not? This means it will go a little bit bigger. Kind of and this gives us like an interesting sort of pattern, but I think I might want to maybe dial that back a bit. And we'll go 10, something like that. So this allows us to give us a bit more thickness and kind of like, almost like an edge of some kind. But yeah, it's like geometry, I guess, but without actually seeing it there. So again, this is this could be colorized. We could do that based on if we just show our radius at the moment. Now I'm going to zoom in just because it's pretty difficult to see if I'm zoomed out. But what we have is the little radius, a little circle around each spline. And this represents the values that we have in this property here. So we can go, 0.5 and 0.2 or something. So we end up with some slightly bigger and some slightly smaller ones. So, you could then take your color mapper and say, I want that data the radius data. What did I say? Point, maybe 0.7, something like that, to have these sort of various colors. So on the low end, we'll go red, and on the high end, we'll go blue, and in between, let's give them a yellow color. So this is a nice way of colorizing based on that radius value. You could also just kind of mix it up with noise to get these like real kind of glittery, sparkly particles that could look really cool mixed in with other ones. So you'd end up with just a few, that you use a different material on, make those really emissive particles and have them just glittery and sparkly. But yeah, there's so much scope when you start to layer these systems up. And maybe we'll just bring this into our world that we're like currently in, which is this one, and then invert. So our smaller particles are going to be this color, the greeny yellow color, and then the larger ones, they'll be this blue color. That's how that's going to work. And yeah, let's just see if we've got something interesting happening. It's kind of getting lost because what we've got is these happening per frame. So I'm going to drop that down to per second. And in the way that you sort of, I guess, mix this up in well, when you're rendering it, I guess, would be, obviously different materials and things like that, as we just mentioned. But maybe visually, you may want to just say, well, I'm looking at this in the viewport and which group is which. Of course, you could override with a color, just so we just say, well, we're only in the viewport. Now I can clearly see the thickness ones are these red ones. And you do that on the particle group. Don't worry, because it's not going to render. What's actually going to render is what you display, what's actually in here set up in the properties. So, you can do that. Or let's just go back, or you could change the draw mode. Maybe you want these to be like just lines, which could be, pretty nice. So then, there's another distinction between those two. So these things can help. And of course, if you really are finding it hard to see, you can bump up the size of those and it sort of exaggerates. You might be working at a distance and it's difficult to see. So, there's a few ways of visualizing these systems. Going back then to, let's see, where are we?
By the way, a comment for everyone. Andy loves splines. We know that. So that's number one. Number two, the great thing is that you can use a single spline, animate it any way you want, and then create multiple particle emitters based on the same spline. And the key word here, which Andy mentioned, was variation. The more different types of particles you have, the more different scales you have, the more different motion you have, you create a much more natural, interesting looking effect. So variation, and you can use the identical objects to emit different particles from the same object. So you can have full control over the emission and then different variations of particles. And then you can mix and match, exchange groups and all that.
Yeah.
Looking good, Andy. Keep going. Oh, let me quickly get to some questions. Now, this one here is a recurring question we're getting from OO. How do I open a banana? And because this question comes up very often, if you ask the same question over the next month of June, I promise you I'm going to make you in July a tutorial on how to unwrap a banana. But I want to see you here on every live show, Ask the Trainer, Demystifying Post-Production. But I'm warming up to the idea of creating how to rig and open a banana. So thank you again, OO, for asking the same question. And I'm not joking. Anyone that's persistent here, we do take those questions into account. We will reward you. Okay.
We've already got a model in the content browser if you want to practice. So,
we have bananas. Hello, Andy, and everybody here. Alberto Pereira. Hello, Alberto.
Hello.
We do have a question, though. And the question is, would this be a good way to animate jet engine exhaust, or are there more standard ways? So one of the things trying to plan out now is a series for particles, but for people that haven't done particles before. And it's going to be hosted on Cineversity. And the reason is that there are certain the standard ways that were mentioned in the question. The overall way you should look at that is anything that requires an effect where you can't distinguish the individual particles, because smoke is particles, dust, dense dust is still particles, but water droplets are not, or sparks. If you have a fire, each spark is an individual point. If you're doing things which you can't distinguish the particles amongst themselves, then it's better to use some sort of pyrosimulation, even if it's to do a dust storm from a distance. But when you want the particles to start being visible, then each individual dot or little object you want, in that case, you start using particles. And of course, we can use them together by advecting them using pyro. In the case of a jet engine, unless there's something seriously wrong with the jet engine, and I do advise don't go onto planes which you can see the particles coming out the exhaust. And nonetheless, a jet engine, you would better simulate it by using some sort of pyro simulation, um, uh, or other effects, in post effects to do various distortions of the background because of the temperature and all that. But again, unless your engine is a cartoon engine that has some sparks, or a bird, an unlucky bird goes into the engine and so forth, I do not think that particles will give you a visual advantage. Yeah. So that, do you have any further comments on that, Andy?
No, I was going to say, yeah, it's pyro. It's probably the way for that. Yeah. Yeah, like you said, unless it's sparking or doing
Yes.
something it shouldn't, then yeah.
Yeah. So
I
the
mean,
individual elements is what you're looking when you're doing particle simulations. Even if you're doing very dense ones, if you have a sandstorm scene and it has both a hero part where you can see the dust up close, you can emit millions of particles and render them, but at the same time, in the background, it's going to be probably a pyrosimulation. All right, quick one, unrelated particles. When is MetaHuman supported in Cinema 4D? I have no idea what exactly you can export FBX and all sorts of other formats from MetaHuman, but that is not a question we can answer here. Last one for now. How do I close a banana? So, Yunus, keep asking the question and you will be rewarded.
mm,
How do I eat a banana? Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. If you don't know how to eat a banana, then there's not much we can do at this show to help you. Please post your questions in English as yeah, so everyone can read them. There's a question in, I think, Spanish. So yeah, please post your questions in English. If you have an issue, you can always use Google Translate and so forth.
mm.
So Andy, keep going. Show us more spline stuff, please.
Oh yeah. Where were we? I guess we can just review. So yeah, let's just turn on a few things here and just see what this one looks like. So it's got something to it, and you can see in this one, oh, I think I've got it tapering as well. Just to give it a little bit more kind of, let me turn these bits off. Zip. It kind of, if you were looking down this kind of thing, it's going to sort of close up, almost taper in a bit. Yeah, so I'll just cover that because why not? We're going to have to do the deformer dance with the taper, I believe, because it's going to come in facing the wrong way. But if we make it a child of this, we can say, which axis do I want? Bit to parent. I think, where is it? And I'm not showing it, but if I do that, and then, oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so the hints are actually like when you look at the world axis here and the direction of your object, this is pointing on the positive z-axis. So if I'd really paid attention to that, I could have brought this in and said plus z, fit to parent, and I'd be happy. Instead, I chose to do it slightly difficult way. So let's just, increase the length of this, bring this down. And what I'm doing is, you can't see it because I've hidden it. But what I'm doing is just deforming this slightly so that we'd end up with a tapered object. And, if you wanted to make it more so, you can subdivide it, give it a smoothness. But, we're not necessarily going to need or worry about that. I mean, why not? But, you could do that. And then the particles that are in this group here, which is my rotating ones. Did I not name them? Yeah, I didn't. That's what threw me off there. Rotating.
A good learning moment for everyone. Name your particle groups, otherwise you're going to be confused, just like Andy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're setting up a whole load of them, it kind of give them a meaningful name, and not like Thanasis or Noseman. I mean, unless you want to name them after your heroes or something like that. Yeah, I mean, this one's like EJ and whatever. I don't know. So yeah, let's just see, right? So we can just rewind and play, and what we probably end up seeing is something I mentioned earlier. If we hide this, maybe we can just. No, I was thinking about X-raying it. Yeah, maybe. So we can kind of see a little bit of both. These may or may not kind of stick to where we want them to do, but they are behaving pretty nicely, actually. I must have got the number right here, because if this is too low, these will not. And let's take off the color, just so it's easier. These probably wouldn't like follow that tapering too well, but based on like the radius here, they kind of, you need to give them, they need to pull into the object. So this is what this is doing. And just by dialing in this amount, you can then get it to a point where your particles are kind of under control, following that dynamic geometry, yeah, that was painless, pretty painless. So yeah, quite fun with that one, I think. So, and then from there, you can obviously take a scene if you've built it up and added some more cool stuff to it. Let's just take this one that isn't exactly cool, but it's cool enough. We could paste it into a scene that has, you could start off with some other geo, but maybe paste it in here. And because we're working with just this spline as our source, this is what we need to manipulate in the viewport here. And the particles will follow along with this. So we can take our procedural spline, just kind of scale this down a little bit, and rewind, press play. We have our portals kind of doing something there. I'm going to check that everything sort of came along with it.
I think you're emitting from the spline and not from the instance of the spline or something like that. Yeah. But one major comment here is that if you add geological formations to anything, your visual becomes much better. That's it.
It's true.
You make a particle simulation, you add some rocks. You make a rabbit running, you add some rocks. You make a car, you add some rocks. So that's how it works. But rocks make things look, and especially curvy rocks like this one, it makes everything look like
you got to make the light kind of purpley as well, and have that.
Teal and orange is now standard. You can't go with purple lights. It's teal and orange. Come on.
Teal and orange. Okay, so we kind of on one side, and then get the orange. You're not gonna do it with temperature and stuff, no?
No. Just how you can use the color wheel and bring up complementary colors, right?
Yeah. So what you
So
do,
everyone,
oh, oh, if we bring up this wheel
you bring the wheel.
like there, here, and my previous light, let's right click and copy it. Okay, and then imagine that we had created a duplicate of the same colored light, and we wanted the complementary color. We then select that light, choose our little arrows here to expand everything, and click onto the circle. And you can actually click here, and this will give you, as you cycle around, some complementary colors, which is pretty interesting. So there's one way. Or if you just eyeballed it and it was like this, you could just grab it. But look, they're stored here now. So you can adjust these and select, go back to the previous one, whatever. And we can be confident that we have a bit of color harmony going on.
Exactly.
And
It's all about cinematography and all that stuff, which I don't understand, but I can pretend I understand them, which is a
yeah,
great thing.
and we have a sort of beautiful, you know, almost nicely lit kind of thing going on here.
There you
And
go.
I encourage you to spend more than a minute doing the lighting because you'll get better results. So there is that. But yeah, put them into a scene and do that with them. And then I think these should react to. Oh, that was one we made earlier. That's interesting.
Yes, but it
So
was
the wrong colors though.
it's
It
the
was
wrong
the
color.
wrong colors, so we fixed it.
The only colors are teal and orange. That's it.
That's it. I
All
think
right, let
that's
me wait wait a couple of seconds. Come on.
it may take a couple of seconds.
All right, let me get to some. Oh, there you go. That's it.
Wow.
There
Yeah.
you go.
So
Final
so
render.
uh, I mean, I don't know about you, do you do this where instead of intensity, you're kind of working with exposure, and just kind of working at it like that? What's your feeling on that? You know?
But the
Do
the only feeling is that if I want an HDR only to be visible in the background, I turn down the exposure. Otherwise, I just use these interchangeably.
Mhm.
Not much. And because the word exposure sounds a bit more, scientific, I use intensity because I'm not a scientist. So,
So you
um,
can
and you have incremental control, but in any case, both are valid.
indeed.
One works more photographically than the other. And let me quickly go through a few questions. And this is an interesting one. I may show a quick example. I'm going to steal the screen from Andy. So it says, Alberta asks, so if I wanted, it's a follow-up from the jet engine, to simulate a fire with some sparks flying, would it be better to use something like pyro and so forth? And that's exactly it. So I'm going to steal the screen. This is my screen here. And I'm going to create what you're talking about is something we call particle advection. So I'm going to create a sphere and just go to the simulation tab and add a pyro emitter. And we have our standard little fire. Now, if you have watched my simulation tutorials, and if you haven't, shame on you, you will know that a pyro simulation generates various grids in order to control the pyro simulation. One of them is the velocity grid, okay? And this is embedded within the simulation. Those velocities are what's creating these weird shapes. And all you need to do here is get the same sphere and use a mesh emitter. And we're going to emit some particles, right? For currently, the particles and the simulation are not connected. And of course, always start from 10,000 particles because you can. So now we have these particles just flying out and smoke going in all sorts of different directions. The only thing you require to do to tell the particles to follow the direction of the velocities of the pyro is to go and add the pyro advect. And you can leave it here, just drag it down. And now what you're going to see is the particles are going to follow uh, the the fire. And the default set here is the default velocity type is set absolute velocity. So they are going to follow these. Add a bit of a lifetime to these so you can tell them in the properties to live, let's say, um, 90 frames plus or minus 60. Extend this to 300 frames and then change some colors based on age and all that. And now you have your sparks flying with the fire. So that will be how you create sparks using Pyro. Excellent. I'm going to return Andy. Is your scene decent. I'm going to add your scene back. So that is that. Now, let's see this question, which someone I think answered. I was trying to open a particle scene browser like Glitter Rocket. I can see it in C40, but I can't see it in Redshift Viewport. You should be able to see it. But in any case, Andy, can you show us very quickly if we can open up, let's see, the Glitter Rocket and see if there's anything missing there?
Yeah. And we'll come back to another question, hopefully.
Yes.
So glitter, particles. And the
Glitter Rocket. Maybe if you type rocket, that's going to be easier.
I'm sorry, I just thought I'd scroll. Glitter Rocket. I need to just download that. Give me a sec.
Just double click.
All right. Yeah.
And see what happens.
Let's go. New scene.
Okay, there you go.
Read me.
Good. What does it say? Read me.
It's
Anything interesting? Just press play and hit render and see what happens. By the way,
hit render. Is this going to crash everything? Let's see.
Oh, well, you know. Let's see.
What's the question? Sorry, I missed it.
So the question was, you can't render in Redshift, but it is rendering.
It is rendering. It's the scene's set up to be rendering with bucket mode by default, which is going to take a little bit longer. So if you want it to be just a progressive mode, which you can sort of see.
So I have some great advice for everyone, including Andy, just in case you didn't know it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen. Now, if for any reason you are seeing anything that appears inconsistent, buggy, or nonetheless a bit odd when you are using any kind of simulation, therefore GPU, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my preferences folder, okay? And in my preferences, I'm just going to show you something here. Give me a second. 1 second. So over here in your preferences, there is a file called shader cache. So if you do find that your particular version, especially if you can't render things and so forth, is giving you trouble, select that shader cache, quit Cinema 4D. Don't delete it yet. So quit Cinema 4D, then delete this shader cache over here, and then run Cinema 4D again, because it holds some cached data that sometimes may interfere with your simulations, because all our simulations are shader based. They're not CUDA or anything like that. There's a very specific way things are done. So try that. Maybe, just maybe, that is the case. Oliver, my very good friend Oliver from Chile, says that you check Redshift version. It should be the latest build, otherwise it's not going to work. Yes, that's another consideration. Thank you very much, Oliver, for reminding us that, because sometimes you may have downloaded a different version of Redshift, then your installation Redshift will be overridden by the other version. So make sure you're running the latest version. And another great question, which I'm going to pass it on to Andy, because maybe I can put him in the spotlight. Transparency with fields on particles fading to transparent. Is it possible? So what do you give us? Open a new scene and try something like that. So how to make particles transparent?
Okay. I would say we have some particles emitting, and so we can see them, let's give them maybe a bigger radius. Oh, maybe 5 and 3. And to show the radius in the viewport, you got to go on the particle group and check on the draw radius option. So now we should be able to see these particles here, and they all have a specific color, which is this green. What I want to do, it hasn't said, so the question, let's just do it based on their distance for now. So we could say, like, look at the grid spacing here. It's 50 units. 500 units, sorry. As we get closer, these smaller ones are 50, I believe. So we can say, right, well, let's say when these particles, I'm going to use some color mapping, have traveled maybe like 200 units. I'm just saying this with color, just so I can kind of get my eye in here. So what I'd expect to happen is these ones will be full transparency, sorry, full opacity, and these ones will be transparent. So we can take out the color. Let's just give ourselves a white to black gradient. And you can obviously then adjust this if we just rewind and play. So we're going to start off with more white, and then they're going to fade to black. So then to apply this data to the color of the particles, or to give this effect, we're going to be working with a redshift material, and we'll grab, if we double click here, we'll just type in user, and we can take the color user data that we've just created here, and we'll take our particle color and let's apply that to the opacity. So maybe these could be a different color. So got to be some kind of, bright color. In fact, I might put them against a bright background so we see it. So maybe there can be a dark color. Let's just grab maybe a dome light. And I'm going to play this through, and you won't be able to see the white ones. Let's make our dome light something else. Should have gone complementary, shouldn't we, really? But, never mind. Let's just see. So we let that play through for a minute and get here, and then we'll apply the material. Ooh, doesn't want to let me. I'm going to put it on the particle group, and we'll keep this open just so we, check that we've applied everything. Let's just see redshift, render view. There we go. So we have our full opacity particles, and then they fade out based on the mapping of the distance of the particles. And, you could then change this to be based on the radius. Some are going to be transparent, some are not, or, they'll fade out based on that if you have a changing radius or something. So again, this can be adjusted, and they'll let that simulate through. And once
We have an interjection here by Anto Nero, which says, but it's not using fields, haha. Okay, Andrew.
Oh, sorry, I missed the question there.
It doesn't matter. So, Andrew, haha, back to you. So here's my screen. And first of all, we're going to take a first step. And I like to out Andy. Right? That's one of the things I do. The good thing about the gradient we use here, it has an edit alpha. So if you do need them to change color and at the same time have alpha, you edit the alpha, which is now opaque. White is opaque. And what you would do is add a white and then a black one and set the brightness to 0. So now what's going to happen here is that as
you still get your color.
Change color, you get your color and you have the edit alpha. In terms of redshift and Andrew, I'm going to get back to your question. Do not worry. So yeah, please. I'll give you the screen. Do you want the screen?
Oh, no. I was just going to say, so then instead of the particle color, you would then use particle color with alpha, right?
Yes. So the color user data here, one of them is particle color with alpha. So then you would get, you can make a color splitter if you want and use that in your opacity. And that's what's going to colorize the particles.
Oh, that's the key thing, the color split. Yeah.
Splitter. So color splitter. And you're going to take the splitter to pick out the alpha and put it in the opacity and use the color in the color here. Take the color in the color. And let's drag this on this and open up my beautiful Redshift RS and give it a second. By the way, in case you missed it, if you add an HDR directly in your object manager, it will add a dome light with that. And let's turn this on and see what happens. Good. So they're becoming transparent. So you can combine colors. Now let's talk about fields. And wait,
Linear field.
I need to put this up. Antro.
Ah,
Right, I'm going to show my face. Right. We
there's the.
love you
Oh,
too.
yes.
We
Just
love you too. And thank you
hit
for
my
your
mic.
question. All right,
Thank you
let's
very
do.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really nice to hear how much we're appreciated and how people like how we look. All right. So instead of a color mapper, what you would do here is you want to change. Oh, I'm going to undo this and keep the color mapper. The color mapper, besides the property, the distance traveled that Andy and I used, we can use a field. So what we're going to do here is if you press Control on this little hamburger, you can just close it temporarily. And in here, I can drag a linear field and put it, let's say, on the plus Z and use this to change the colors. So basically what's going to happen is that we're going to use the colors of the field now. So forget, we don't get this gradient anymore. But in the field, you go to the color remap and you say, okay, I'm going to use a gradient. And I'm going to add my nice little preset color. Let's put this. And then you can go to the edit alpha and create your alpha. So that will be the way you would go about doing that. Let's make sure it works because you never know. And let's rewind, press play. The field now is dictating the change of color. And let me see what else do we have here. You can see it's fading out. And drum roll. If this doesn't work, I promise I'm going to create some sort of tutorial about it. But it is working. All right. So again, you're using the field to make them transparent, and the field color, the color remap, is what defines the color of the particles. So rewind, press play. You do need to regenerate the colors, and now they're going to sort of fade out in
Mm.
oblivion. Are they? Oh, they're not. Let me see if I've done any.
You didn't edit the alpha because it reset, I think.
See, I'm testing Andy, I think.
Mm. We
Yeah,
do get tested.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Always, always. I can't get away with anything wrong when I'm with experts here. So this should work. And there you go.
Yeah.
So you ask one question, Andrew, and you get two replies. I mean, this is the best show on earth. And let's continue another nice little question here. Let's put out beautiful faces. Just if you want to take a a screenshot of us, do that right now.
No
And
screenshots were taken.
Andrew asks another question. If I have a tracer on particles and I'm using hair rendering with Redshift, I didn't find a way to make transparency fading on material with fields. Well, you have your answer, but I have to caution you that we currently don't have a way to transfer the particle color to the hair renderer. And that's why the last quick tip I did last week was about how to create traces without hair, just with particles. So you can apply this logic using the particle trail technique. And basically, what I'm doing is I'm reproducing particles using the reproduce. We go to particles here, we have the reproduce. It's very powerful. And I'm creating static particles with a limited time span. And I can create the traces. And if you're wondering, yeah, but hair is faster to render. No, 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 no. Hair rendering in Redshift actually creates very dense dots. So rendering hair in Redshift is like rendering a lot of particles. So I think you will find that the speed is going to be quite similar. Nonetheless, you could use that technique. Let's continue with a few more questions here. What is the difference between real flow and this new particle system? And the answer is, well, the difference is everything because real flow is a fluid simulator, dedicated fluid simulator. It does use various different algorithms, but ours is just a pure particle system. We don't have proper fluid particle to particle interactions and cohesions and all that. The answer was provided by lookalike dolls. In real flow has fluid simulation, C4D particles does not. Let's see. And yes, Antro, please try this. And if you make anything, and this applies to everyone, If you do make nice things when you watch a show or watch tutorials and all that, please let the community know, because we are doing these shows for free. They're available to everyone, and it's a shame if people that are looking for this knowledge cannot find it. So I'm going to put Andy back on the spotlight, and Andy's going to show us a tree-like structure. This is going to get interesting now.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, and also just echoing the thing that you were just mentioning, which was like trail-like things as well, which is, please go and see the quick tip, because it says everything in a more succinct way. So yeah, let's go here and see what we've got going on. We have like a branching system, but it's not really using multiple systems, like you could nest multiple reproduce emitters, and then I've shown this on Rocket Lasso, which we did a couple of weeks ago with Chris Schmidt. Not this, but a similar thing, and then this was kind of interesting. So let's just talk about the initial setup. So I have a basic emitter, which is just this circular shape that you see on the floor here, and it's pointing upwards because it's going to fire a particle up, which is this one. Off it goes, and it goes into this group. This is the group, and it has a little bit of turbulence. Now, what I'm saying is, if, and now I've been kind of, I haven't put this like under a group, but there's a sort of reason for that. So it kind of recursively does its thing. And so what I'm saying with this condition is, like, if the position of y of this particle is greater than 450 centimeters, then reproduce a count of 50 particles, which is distributed over this this particle here. And I'm then saying if the group is, I mean, you could do this actually. This was a thought that I had probably before we had kill source. So you could just kill the source particle, but you can also say, you know what, if that particle belongs to a certain group, say property group, and then you link in your particle group here, then kill it. Okay, so that's another way of doing essentially what kill source does. But so we're not like, and this is, there's a reason for, I guess, keeping it exposed out here, because you could then like turn that off and have it travel, and at this point it's going to reproduce, and then it's going to reproduce again, and do some other things. But for the tree-like thing, I just wanted to kill it, and then the reproduce goes into a new group. So we can call this branches. Why not? Okay. So the reproduce is sending everything into a particle group, but it also has this additional data, some life expectancy, and stuff like that. So in this group now, if we're just saying if you're round, then apply this color mapper to the age percentage. We can use age percentage because we actually defined a lifetime inside of the properties here. So it's within this sort of percentage of these values here. Then apply these colors. If we zoom in, you can kind of see a few of them there. And then I'm giving it a chance to kind of do something based on gravity, which is applied to the whole scene. If we just take this here, you can apply specific fields, forces to certain groups by nesting them underneath. But if you want a force to be applied to the whole scene, one way of doing it is putting it at the root level, and then everything will get considered. All particles will consider this force and use it. So it's a very weak gravity, just to give them some kind of dipping and things like that. But yeah, they're going to fire off and then kind of like do this almost sparkly type thing. But, this wouldn't look as interesting unless we were using these tracers, because if I turn those off, you can see they're just kind of like, it's fizzing away. And this is interesting to a certain degree, but I put the tracers on. This is tracing the init group, just so we get that first, like, first initial line. And this one is tracing the branches. So why not init and branches? And then we can see those happening. Now, how do you control any of this, right? So we have a kill percentage. So, if it's 100, we're going to kill everything off immediately. That's not necessarily going to be too fun, right? If we reduce this down, we're going to allow them to grow and keep going for a long time, and eventually this will get them. But we run out of time by that point. So you can create more branches just by adjusting this amount here. And there was another option, of course, if you adjust the count. I've
Andy,
changed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it likes to do that to me sometimes. Yeah, if we adjust the count, you can go way less and just have a few little bits going off. You could adjust the speed, so then they travel further, but there's less of them, kind of thing. So there's a lot of flexibility. Add some variation. We have variation here. And I like to just pump it up a little bit, so get these really nice branches going. And this you could use a time condition or something to kind of get different effects going. But once that's looking a bit more like a tree, kind of cool. Could you then say at this point, 167 frames, time condition. So when the scene time is 167 frames, do something to everything and assign a velocity of 0. I'm thinking we might freeze the tree at that point. And then, yeah. Okay, so this is scene time. Maybe it needs to all go into a new group or something. Maybe just under these branches. Oh,
and we have a relevant question. But when you're done with this,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is what I would do. If the scene time is less than this, or less than or equal, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it was like greater than or equal to, and maybe it's because it. Yes. Okay, so this is something that tripped me up sometimes. Like this can be true until it's not true. So yeah, the scene time can be that frame when it's equal to that or something, right? But then it's like true for a frame, and then it just stops. So I'm sure. Yeah, you can see now that they're stopping. So we're killing the velocity at that point. And then we have our or I guess another way of doing it would be just to say, like, keep reproducing until we are, as long as we're less than or equal to this frame, keep reproducing and then stop. So there's other ways of controlling that, and then mesh it. And do some designing with the branches based on radius and density, and like how you want them to scale along the spline as well. So there's kind of like coral-like structure which we are making. And if this had a really lovely material on and some normal, some displacement and stuff like that, then you could make a pretty little scene, I'm sure of it.
You can do a setup where the particle scales, and then because the volume builder takes into account the particle radius, you can
Hmm.
make the branches sort of taper off and have a consistent thickness and all that, where when the particle is emitted, has the same radius as the particle that's emitting it, and then gets smaller over time, and so forth. So there are many ways to go about this, and each one has its own interesting side effects.
Yes,
So
indeed. Yeah.
let's quickly do this question here. Can you adapt the idea to create fireworks? And the answer is yes. And there are examples of fireworks in the asset manager. If you go, our very good friend Derry Osdurk, which was with us a couple of weeks ago on the Demystifying Post-Production, uh, has some examples. So go and check them out. After Andy shows this, I'm just gonna, there you go, fireworks. And it's using other particles as trails. But the question had a very specific component. How would you make the trails disappear? Now, one way is to put a predefined lifetime to the particles that are trailing. Check out my quick tip to see how to do that. Or you can do the following. So I'm going to do a very simple particle setup with a basic emitter that has a spherical shape. Okay, so we have these particles going in all these directions. Now I'm going to shoot 100 particles. And what I'm going to do is go to the particle group, select it, and in MoGraph, I'm going to add a tracer. And this is going to trace the motion of the particles. You can see that it's tracing the lines. Just to make it a bit more interesting, although it's not required, you add some turbulence and you put these three random numbers. Now they're going to squiggle around. Now, if you want the trails to get shorter, this is a tracer function. And it's something that some people don't know, and it's a good time to learn. Down here, you see it says limit. And currently it's none, which means that as long as each element we're following is sort of moving, then it will keep connecting it. But if you say from end and set this to, let's say, 15 frames, this means that the trails are going to be 15 frames long. Look at that, squirming little worms flying in the air. So that's approximately how you can do that. Or use the particle trail technique I'm showing in the quick tip. So that will be some sort of answer. So last question, because it's approaching 17 minutes after the hour. So typical to our shows, we always overrun. We think it's good luck. Maybe two questions. So let's see. What do we have here? How to connect particles to Voronoi fracture to emit, for example, pyro, smoke, and dust from a broken cube. So let me quickly try and do something like this. Get a cube. Let's get a Voronoi fracture, and we have the Voronoi fracturing and whatnot. Now I can always make this fall and use some simulation stuff, but I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to offset the fragments so we can see the insides. Now, if you go into the selections, you can get the inside surfaces. So surface break, inside vertex map, inside faces. This creates a polygon group of the inside surfaces, anything that's common. And as far as I understand, you could create pyro emitter from the selection. So emission type, or we can do it from the points, and we need the emission map. We can take a polygon selection. In theory, again, I don't know if this is going to work, but if you press play, you should get smoke from the inside surfaces, and you are. So this is pretty much the technique you are going to use to do something like this. If I put surface, again, I can use, so because it's emitting from points now, so the surface now, it's going to emit from the surfaces. Only, yeah, it's quite dense in any case. Inside surfaces, I need to check this out. It doesn't look right, but nonetheless, there you go. It was just too thick. So now it's emitting only from these inside surfaces. So that's how you would go about creating the pyro and so forth from the surfaces. And let's the last one, last question. Is there a way for it to explode into a shape mesh, then dissipate? Um, do you have any ideas, Andy? How you would make it explode into a shape? I have a couple.
Mm. So it, like, the firework becomes a shape. Is that
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about? And then dissipates. Some kind of almost uh, like inheritance almost, but
All right, let's test it out. Test it out. Last question. Shot one particle, and let's make this. Let's rotate it, and the objective here is to fail. And this is the stuff we really like. So one particle going upwards, boink, and I'm going to make it bigger so we can see it. There you go. So we get one particle, extend this to 300 frames,
mhm,
and let's see now. So when this reaches an age of, let's say, 60 frames, right? Which can be distance, it can be all sorts of things. So let's go and get a condition here and say when age is greater than or equals. Don't use equals
no.
with the age because it's never precisely that frame.
Mhm.
But if it's greater than or equal 60 frames, I'm going to ask it to change group and I'm going to switch group. And I'm going to switch into another group, which is called shape. Good. So let's tell it to change that shape. I'm going to make these 5 and I'm going to change the color. Now, let's see. Uh, and it's going to change to red. There you go. It's changed to red. And it's a different group. So what I could do with this, and this is just a very quick overview that takes a few minutes. I'm going to make a cloner with whatever shape I want, platonic, for example, and clone onto that object. So the object is going to be the particle. So what's going to happen here is that that object is going to appear when that one particle or more particles switch to this group. And because I can animate the scale of this object,
Mm.
I can use the cloner's map to age to scale up. So I can tell this, I don't know if it's going to work, honestly. So let's make this 0.1, 0.1, 0.1 and add some keyframes. Let's go to frame 10 and set this to 111 and add some keyframes. Okay. And let's see if this is going to do anything meaningful. Is it going to be small and grow? It didn't grow.
You're going to do your reset the age trick, aren't you?
Nah, yes.
No. Are
So
you?
before it switches group, you're going to go to the math and you're going to tell that particle uh, and assign it an age of 0. So just before it switches group, it becomes an infant again, so that then it can use its newfound age in this animation. Because the minute it switches, it becomes 0 age again. So let's see if this is going to work. It's not working. So what am I doing? Animate. So map animation to age. Am I not? Oh, I'm resetting coordinates. I need to get the actual coordinates from. There you go.
Hey.
So now you can use this as some sort of mesh emitter. And in order to make it work, you put it under a connect object and you get rid of the weld. And you tell this to be your, let's say, emission source mesh emitter. And what else? Well, let's see if that's going to work. Boing. Okay. Mesh emitter. And the connect object should be in the. Ooh, it's not. There you go. I forgot to do that. And let's see. Emit. Yep, we're
Yeah.
emitting. And let's get some gravity. Put it in here. Always tell this to emit, I don't know, a shot of 10,000 particles. The secret source is 10,000 particles.
The new
And
default.
the new default. And this is sort of how you can make a shape and make it emit. And it's doing whatever it's doing. Andy, I hear you have an idea of sorts.
Yeah.
Not. Oh, sorry. One mistake.
It's because it's a shot, is it?
Yeah, it's a shot.
Yeah.
So I want it to emit 1,000 per frame. There you go. Then now it's going to emit zoing. There you go. And you have your shape, maybe a range of frames, duration of 10 frames only. So now we should get 10 frames worth of particles? No, because it's from the beginning of the scene. So I just need to align this from
60.
60 and for 10 frames. Ah, yes, that should require to make it fully
Would
played.
your there you go. Would your shot work at that point or no? If you're setting the start time, your shot should work, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to shoot
You might be
a range of 10
gotcha,
frames
gotcha.
and so forth. But in any case, this would be a very quick and dirty way to sort of make this look like a shape. And the trick is to create the shape with your object, add some animation to that, and there you go.
Yeah,
We get
lovely. Kill that original particle and you're good. Yeah.
okay. So, you are very welcome, Sam. And do you have anything else for us, or shall we just say our goodbyes now? Is everyone happy with today's show? Is everyone happy? Are you happy, Andy?
I am. Like, hit that thumbs up button and then
Thumbs up. Yeah,
yeah.
sign up and go to Andy's website and check out his stuff, and check out your stuff on LinkedIn Learning and theoldlinda.com.
Indeed. Yeah. And the YouTube channel is on its way. So I know nothing about YouTube. So I'm like, so in terms of, I can watch it obviously, but creating, it's like there's a lot to learn there. So I'll just be taking it at my as it comes, you know. So
You'll be fine, Andy. You'll be fine.
well,
Okay, so yes, I'm going to do some quick reverse housekeeping here at the speed of fast. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I'm going to put this here with our faces so you can enjoy us while we're here. Don't forget to ask your questions for Max on Ask the Trainer. The links have been posted up in the chat, so I'm not going to post them again. Don't forget to check your events here, what's happening, what's going on with all of our products. You can actually stop working and just watch shows and presentations if you wish to do so. The videos are going to be hosted on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel after they're broadcast live, and they've been broadcast live on both Maxon and Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. Go and watch amazing tutorials and presentations for ZBrush from amazing artists I only feel envy for. And go and grab your little swag, a t-shirt. You only pay for postage, folding, and plastic bags or whatnot. So yeah, use Particle Magic, all caps, no spaces, to do that. Go to the Oats University and watch over 10,000 tutorials worth a lot of knowledge, I would say. The News University has all the new stuff, new tutorials, new interface, and how much do we have? We have a few thousand hours worth already. And check out Andy's work on YouTube. Click subscribe and all that. This is your channel. I saw 275,000. I said, "What? Andy complaining about doesn't know
no.
YouTube." Yeah, but this is 150 subscribers. Come on, people. Come on. Go click that button. Let's see 50, 60, 100 more. Get your families, friends, pets, and your hairdresser to sign up as well. And I can vouch for Andy's quality content. And of course, go watch his presentation that took place a month ago at
It's all
NAB.
about particles.
All about particles.
Mm-hmm.
Just check out All About Particles. And having said that, Andy, I'm very happy we had you here on the show. We should do this more often. Thank you very much for the great stuff you showed us.
Thanks
Once
very
again,
much,
more than my pleasure. And we should talk more often. So thank you again for coming. I'm trying to find now, where's that button where I need to press and put the music on and all that? Oh.
We'll just be mid-conversation and suddenly
mid-conversation
it will end.
Yeah,
I also hope they put the search bar on materials, by the way, Andrew.
Okay, yeah, they put it on the record. So as I'm talking, I'm going to press the end stream button because why not?
Yeah, so, and another thing.
And another thing.
And the most important thing to remember is this.